orientation, as you may know, has been split into two parts. So the first part is called First Flight, and the second part is called Eagles Landing. And so First Flight, you'll do first. If you're a transfer student, you actually start First Flight this coming Monday. You'll get an email from our office with further directions, and I'll go into kind of what that entails in a sec. For our freshmen, you'll start First Flight, in June. So kind of still looking at those June dates, but you'll do a little bit work in advance of whatever June date that you signed up for. And so in First Flight, you'll work through several different modules. You'll learn more about Winthrop as a whole. You'll learn more about specifically academics at Winthrop. So we're going to hit pretty heavy on academics. You'll learn about like how many credit hours you should be taking, what the general education requirements are, things like that. You'll also get to kind of know more about your academic college. So each academic college has put together a lot of work into creating virtual pieces for y'all to either view, read, or watch, like a video. And so depending on what your academic college is, you'll learn more about them through First Flight as well. You'll also hear from two of our financial offices. So at Winthrop, we have Student Financial Services, which focuses primarily on tuition and billing and things like that. We also have the Office of Financial Aid, which is aptly named. They focus on financial aid and student loans and things like that, and scholarships. So those two offices will also have a piece in First Flight for you to view. We do have a couple quizzes in First Flight that you'll need to complete, and really the quizzes are not to mess you up or trip you up or anything like that, or be tricky questions or anything like that. It really is just to kind of reiterate some really important information that you'll need. And so once you complete First Flight, so making your way through those different modules, then you will be able to, an advisor will reach out to you, so your academic advisor will reach out to you and set up a time to meet with you. For transfer students, that's going to be individual advising appointments. For our freshmen, unless you're an undeclared major, I believe you'll be in group advising. So you'll meet with your advisor, but also some other students in your major. If you're undeclared, then you will meet with, you'll have an individual advising appointment, so just you and the advisor. And so in that advising appointment, you'll also register for classes right then. And so your advisor will walk you through basically how to register for classes, but then also kind of helping you to get the classes that you need for the fall semester. And so that's kind of the long and short of First Flight. You'll also kind of get some of those navigation videos, like how to navigate Wingspan. Some of you might have already kind of logged into Wingspan and been poking around. You'll get some more demos for those, and then also Blackboard and DegreeWorks and all of this you'll learn about in First Flight too. For the second part, so that's First Flight, the first part. The second part is Eagles Landing. And I'm going to be honest, we're more excited about these just because we are potentially going to get to meet y'all in person. And so for Eagles Landing, these are 6 dates in early August. And you'll get an email from us in early July is what we're shooting for right now. That says, please go in and register for an Eagles Landing date. And so those again are early August dates where you'll actually come to campus. And freshmen, you'll be with us all day for those Eagles Landing days. Just one of them. Let me clarify. You'll sign up for just one. And so you come to check in the morning, and then we've got you all the way through dinner, going through some different things. So we won't focus as heavily on academics. For Eagles Landing, we will focus more on what the Winthrop experience is like. So you'll get to meet other Eagles face to face, and you'll get to learn about the opportunities on campus, like involvement and how to maybe get further into your career on campus and working further with your major that way. For transfer students, that's the same content, but you'll be with us through about mid-afternoon instead of through dinner. And then yeah, so that's Eagles Landing, and that's also where you'll, well, actually, let me back up. So during First Flight, you'll meet your orientation leader or your transfer orientation leader and mentor, depending on your population. And these are upperclassmen students who are just so excited to meet you. They've been in training in preparation to meet y'all this summer since for the Tomes probably since November, for the freshmen since January. So we've been at it for a long time getting ready for y'all. And we're so excited, and they're so excited. Let me echo that. They're so excited. So they're going to engage with y'all in First Flight, the online piece, but they'll also be there during Eagles Landing, the in-person date. So I've covered quite a lot. Let me kind of hear from y'all. What do y'all need to know? What do y'all want to know?
Go ahead. I'm so sorry. You're good.
I was wondering about Eagles, not Eagles Landing, First Flight. Will that be, when's the deadline for that to be done?
Oh yeah, good question, Bella. So this will all be outlined in the email you get once we enroll you into the First Flight program in Blackboard. And so you'll have a week to complete it. And so that's more than enough time, honestly. I think you could, if you wanted to, really hunker down and finish it all in one day. But we want to, of course, give you enough time in case you, have jobs to go to or have some other responsibilities. And then also just kind of like computered out. I know I'm kind of like that these days with everything. And so we wanted to allow for y'all to have some breaks in there if you needed to. So yeah, a week. 1 week is how long you have to complete First Flight before your advisor would contact you. Good question. Yeah.
Hi. Is there still going to be a in-person Winthrop Day, or was that completely canceled?
I'm gonna shift down to you.
I was actually just about to answer that question. So great question. We had to cancel our in-person Winthrop Day with everything going on. That being said, we did do a virtual Winthrop Day, and it is still up and online. I actually was the host for that, so you can check that out on our YouTube channel. So shameless plug, go check us out, Winthrop Admissions on YouTube. There's even a website, so you really didn't miss anything. You can access all of that information right now. As far as any sort of admitted student early Eagles thing, it's all been canceled just because of the situation that happened this fall or this spring. Generally, that's something that happens in March or April. We've had to push it here, but that being said, we're still excited to have you join the Winthrop group. And even though we don't have early this year, I mean, we still think that there's a lot to celebrate about you guys.
I have a question.
Yeah. Yes.
Hello?
Hello? You have a question?
I'm sorry, you're breaking up. I can't hear you.
Oh. Could you try to ask your question again? If this is the serious talking, we're getting some feedback, and I'm not able to hear your question fully or at all. Maybe try type in the chat. I'm now seeing your questions in the chat, so sorry about that. So I think the next one is, do I have to pay for orientation in order to sign up? So there is an orientation fee. What I will say is in order to register for orientation, you don't have to pay that up front. You'll pay it whenever you pay tuition in the fall. So it's just kind of added to your Winthrop bill, if that makes sense. And what I'll also say about fees is that at this time, the orientation fee is not changing. But as we move through the summer, our senior leadership and board of trustees are going to kind of keep an eye on it, and they'll make a decision if it does change. So just want to kind of add that there too. Let's see. And then Ty, they had questions about the Early Eagles Dinner. Do you want to talk about Early Eagles at all?
I can talk a little bit about it. So Early Eagles is something that we've done in the past, and it was something that we did plan on in this year, where we invited some of the students from this past class coming in to join us for a banquet. Because of spacing, a lot of times we were looking to take students that were valedictorians, salutatorians, very, very prominent in their school communities, and invite them on campus to meet with the deans of the various colleges. Unfortunately, we had to cancel the physical event, but as Amanda mentioned, we are still looking at options where we could do it virtually. That could be a great way for students to still get to meet with those deans. And all the same, even if you weren't going to that event, you are going to get to meet with the deans of the various colleges, because as a student here at Winthrop, you see them all over the place. I mean, you'll see the deans of every single college at various meetings across campus. Some of them still teach classes, so you're still going to get a level of communication with those individuals as well.
Cool, thanks, Ty. Okay, let's see. I've got a question from, here's Jaquarius. I hope I'm saying your name right. What day in June is First Flight? So it depends on what session you signed up for. We've added the dates back in there. So if you go back to, we had taken them out, I'm not gonna lie, as we're trying to figure things out. But if you go back in, you should be able to see the specific date that you signed up for. Those are also listed on our website, winthrop.edu/orientation, and you click on freshman orientation, the dates are listed there. And so they correspond to like session number. So if you know that you signed up for session 1, you can go in and see that session 1 is June 10th and 11th. So basically what that means, let me just use session 1 as an example. So if you've signed up for session 1, that means that about a week or so in advance of session 1, you'll get an email from us that says that you've been dropped into Blackboard and to do First Flight. And so at that moment, you are able to kind of go into First Flight and get started. And so again, like I mentioned to Bella, you have a week to complete First Flight, and then your advising session for June would be around those dates that you signed up for, if that makes sense. So that's kind of how it works. So once you go in and register, just click on any of those sessions. I think session 1 is actually currently closed, but sessions 2, 3, and 4 are open. And so if you go in and register for one of those, we'll get you to where you need to go, basically. And I think that answers another question. Let's see. I'm trying to scroll up. Hold on one sec. Let's see. I can't take sciences at my current school because of COVID-19. Whoop. It's scrolled.
And I was actually just answering that one in a private chat, but for anyone who is having any sort of issues taking classes at a 2-year school or any transfer schools, you know, it's something that we will take into consideration. With Mary's case, she's looking to take classes through a 2-year institution and have them transferred here. So Mary, I was going to type your answer, but here's your answer. Since you can't take those courses, we do offer a whole host of science courses here. So you can look to take those once you've transferred to Winthrop.
Thanks. Okay, so then let's see. For First Flight, I saw there was a portion for the parents. I was wondering what that's all about. So in Blackboard and First Flight, there's actually not a place for any family orientation pieces, but I will say that we've got 2 of our folks working this summer to create those family orientation pieces in advance. So we will have an in-person family orientation program during each of those Eagles landing dates. And so if you want your mom or dad or sister or whoever to come with you to those, they're still more than welcome to come. But we're also going to be putting out some virtual pieces in the meantime. So while you're doing First Flight, we'll have some pieces for them. It'll likely be sent via email for those folks who have registered for family orientation already. We'll also put some things on our Facebook page. So that's Winthrop University Family Programs Facebook page. And so we'll put some different pieces there as well. Let's see. And then Ty, another question, is the deposit still due on the 1st?
Great question. So yes, we are asking for students to have their deposit submitted by June 1st. That's your way of locking in your spot in the incoming class. So if you have any difficulties with that, definitely get in contact with us. But that's just so that we can kind of get an idea of what our numbers look like for this year. So June 1st is that date. No longer May 1st, June 1st.
Thanks. Okay, so then this person asked Amber, she says, what is the best way to find a roommate? And so my immediate thought is in First Flight, you'll have access to the other students in your orientation group. And so definitely use them. But I'm going to toss this one out to Mackenzie, Allie, and Tariq. What do y'all think? Best way to find a roommate?
For me personally, I know there was a Facebook group for like my class at Winthrop. So definitely you can utilize your class Facebook page because that's kind of how I found my roommate, and it was also like randomized as well. So it was kind of like a connection type thing. We just posted like little snippets of like bios and pictures of ourselves, and then at the end we was just like looking for a roommate, feel free to reach out. And I just messaged a couple of people. And then the person who I felt more comfortable with, that's how I kind of chose who my roommate was going to be. So that's a good thing to utilize like social media outlets and stuff.
I honestly did the exact same thing as Tariq. I was in my class's Facebook page and I made a post of my own, like, a little description about me. It's almost like a dating website type thing. Like you're reading everyone's descriptions, trying to figure out who like matches you the best. I like was looking people up on Instagram kind of. And then I just found someone on there that I really clicked with. We had a lot in common. And so I reached out to her. And we actually ended up at the same orientation session, which was really cool because I got to meet her beforehand too. So that's what I did.
Allie, really fast, can you talk about what different things you included when you posted about yourself? And what things you
Um,
for maybe?
I put like obviously like my name, where I was from. I had my major. I also kind of put in there that I stay up a little bit later at night and I sleep in more, because I didn't really want someone who's going to be like extremely morning person at 6 a.m. and I'm trying to sleep in. So I kind of put in there what my sleeping habits were like. I put in there kind of like my cleanliness habits, because some people want their room extremely tidy and picked up all the time, and other people you can't even find the floor. So I put in there how I was with that, to try to kind of match with that as well. Um, just some things like that, just some fun facts like my favorite like animal, my favorite place I've traveled, things like that, just to kind of give an idea of who you were. I put some like involvement things from high school, like different sports or clubs that I was in as well, just to kind of give a full idea of who I was.
Thanks. Mackenzie, did you have anything to add to that one?
I think my only thing was there's noise. I don't know if y'all can hear it. I can hear it. But so I think I did not do any of those things. I had a random roommate. So I think my advice would don't be afraid of the random roommate. I know that can be like super scary. Definitely like coming in and not knowing your roommate, like that's kind of icky. I get it. But don't be afraid of that. I know my roommate who I had, she was my roommate for 2 years and like one of my best friends. So that's to be expected also, but also you might not be best friends with your roommate, which is also okay too. So I think if you can't find someone that you click with and you do all these things that Tariq and Allie had said, don't be afraid of the random. It's gonna be okay. I promise. Because they might end up being your best friend like it was for me. So yeah.
Cool. Thank you, Mackenzie. That was I think, a really important perspective too, because not everyone's gonna find somebody on social media or, however beforehand. So really good point there. And I think with any roommate, right, it's important to kind of set expectations at the beginning. And so in the fall, when you move in, you'll get the opportunity to fill out a roommate agreement. And it's basically a worksheet that you and your roommate will do together, just to kind of talk through some of the things that Allie mentioned of like, I'm an early bird, I'm a night owl, that sort of thing. I really like the bathroom cleaned how this often, that sort of thing. And just so that y'all can get on the same page as roommates and kind of move forward together, if that makes sense. Okay, so back to the chat. Oh, any other questions about roommates before we continue on? I don't want to go away if we're still wondering about that. Okay.
I had a question.
You guys
Oh, yeah.
have a group mixer?
Evan, can you hear me?
Yes. So if like you do get a roommate that you don't like get along with, they're horrible, you just don't get along with, is there ways to get out of that roommate situation, or are you kind of stuck there?
I'm going to toss that one back out to the students as well.
I can also answer that one. So great question, Evan. When it comes to roommates that you just can't get along with, period, there are ways of getting around that. But ultimately, I would recommend try to work with them the best you can. 9 times out of 10, you're not going to encounter people on Winthrop's campus where you just can't deal with them, period. So there are some strategies there to find some commonality, some common ground, work through your problems. Because as a Winthrop student, I had a roommate who was terrible about cleaning up his laundry, and it irritated me. But I was able to sit down and talk to him and work through those issues one-on-one. Now, if you absolutely just cannot be with that person, Residence Life can work with you to try to get you reassigned. But it's all based on availability at that point.
I would also just chip in and add to definitely utilize your RA as you're working through those disagreements as he was talking about. Your RA has gone through a lot of training and they're a resource that's there for you. They're trained to help with conflict resolution, coming to compromises, that sort of thing. So definitely utilize them and reach out to them and express their concerns because they may be able to help you, and then you won't have to deal with having to pack up all your stuff and then move it all to another room and unpack it all again. So make sure you reach out to them too.
Allie, can you say what an RA is?
An RA is a residence assistant, and so every floor in the residence halls have an RA, and they're an upperclassman. They've applied for this position, so they're interested in it. They're interested about you and your well-being, and so they're just sort of there to kind of just be another resource. You'll have tons of resources, and they're the one in your residence hall for you that you can go directly to. And they'll also try and help you get to know the other people in your hall through like different monthly meetings where you can play different games and that sort of thing, just to help build that hall community.
Thank you. I was an RA and I loved it. So if you're interested in being an RA, definitely apply in the fall. Okay, so back to the chat. This person said,
Star, I believe Star had a question, Callie.
oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you, Star. What's up?
It's okay. I don't think anybody, can you hear me? Okay. There was a roommate mixer that I saw and I missed. Are you guys gonna have another?
We are discussing that right now. There is a potential that we will host another one because we had such a good turnout, but that will be towards the end of May. So definitely keep an eye out on emails and our Instagram for more information on that. But you are not the only one that we've gotten this question from. So I'm hoping that we can get something scheduled for everybody, probably the last week in May.
Awesome. Thank y'all. Okay, now I'm going to get back to the chat. So Alexandra asked, do we need to actually keep the orientation days free for online orientation that you signed up for? And so the answer to that is if you're a freshman, yes, like I said, the advising will happen during one of those days that you signed up for orientation. So it won't be the entire period of those 2 days. It'll be part of it. So what I'd say for right now, until you know more, because it also depends on your major and your advisor schedule, right? So until you know more, I would keep those 2 dates open. And then for transfer students, the answer is basically no. So you'll actually do advising May 20th through the 29th. And so you'll be dropped in, like I said, to first flight on Monday, May 11th, which is coming up. And so after that, once you've worked your way through first flight, then you'll have advising sometime in the window of May 20th through the 29th. And again, those are individual advising appointments for transfers. And so you'll be able to kind of schedule a time with your advisor and kind of work with your schedule and theirs. So you've got a little bit more flexibility, if that makes sense. The next question is, we don't have to register for first flight until June, right? This is incorrect. And I hope everyone hears me when I say this. If you have not registered for orientation at all, you need to go ahead and do so. If you do not register for orientation you will miss the boat completely, right? And so the first step is to register for orientation. And the link, I believe, is in your admissions portal, but it's also on our website, winthrop.edu/orientation. And so you can kind of catch it.
So, I was
Hello?
wanting to ask that question. So orientation is first flight. That's the same
Oh, yeah. So,
thing.
yeah, for those of you who came in a little late too, orientation's been split into two parts. So the first part is first flight, and that's going to be online through Blackboard, and it's going to happen for transfer students in May primarily, and then for freshman students it'll happen in June. And so then the second part of orientation is Eagles Landing, which is an in-person date where you'll come to campus and learn basically the rest of the story, right? So that'll be in early August, those Eagles Landing dates. And so right now, when you register for orientation, you're really that's the first step to start the first flight process. We're going to email y'all again in early July to register and sign up for that Eagles Landing date. That you'll come to campus, because there are 6 dates and you'll choose one of those. So good question. Brian, does that answer your question?
So, sorry, I don't know if my mic's on. So if we are registered for orientation, we're good, right? Like we're good for first flight?
Yeah, if you're registered
Okay.
for orientation, you are good to go. If you've not, definitely do that today for sure. Really good question. Thank you. Jaden, did you have a question? I see your mic's on.
No, I was just gonna say we will get that all in an email like later on as it gets closer to the orientation dates.
Yep, transfer
Okay.
students, I'll be emailing you Monday. And for freshmen, I'll be emailing you actually kind of at the end of May for some of you, and then if not, then closer in June. Again, it really depends on what session you signed up for. You'll be getting an email from me a week or so before your session date, if that makes sense.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah. And Allie, did you want to say something?
I just think there was a question you skipped over about what is the difference between the sessions. It was right after the roommate one.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so for really, there's no difference in the sessions. Basically, the only difference, like I've mentioned, is when your advising appointment's going to be. And so for freshmen, sessions 2, 3, and 4 are currently open. And so just make sure you get into one of those, really. For transfer students, sessions B, C, and D are open. Y'all are letters. It's different. Sorry. And so really any of those sessions as well if you haven't registered, regardless of for transfer students, regardless of there's no dates associated with BCD anymore. So all those sessions are going to be into first flight Monday, if that makes sense. Thanks, Allie, for catching that. Okay, let's see. If classes are not available to resume in the fall on campus, is there anything set up for students to defer their enrollment date and scholarships until classes resume on campus? Ty.
Gotcha on that one. So I believe Amelia left, but for anyone who was curious, the leadership team on campus is discussing that as an option. And my best recommendation is just stay in touch with the Office of Admissions. We have text numbers, we have phone numbers that you can call, and you can always email us. So you've probably been getting messages from myself or one of the other counselors in our office. Feel free to just reach back out to them if that is something you're looking into.
And what I'll say about for the orientation angle of that, if you do choose to defer, depending on how long you defer for, you may have to go through orientation again. If it's just a semester or even 2 semesters, you won't. But if it's any further past that, there are likely to be changes on campus that you'll need to know about, and so it will require you to go through orientation again. So just a heads up there too. Let's see. Everyone I know in college is having so many difficulties with online classes and say it's not worth the tuition. So Amelia said that. And so what I'll say is online classes are really difficult and something that, and maybe not difficult for everybody, maybe that's kind of a blanket statement, because I think some people actually do better in online classes. It really just depends on the person. But what I will say is that through this, we've all had to pivot, right? And so for online classes this past spring, our faculty and staff really kind of were thrown into the mix of really making sure that they're ready and that their students are ready to kind of go into this online setting. And what we've basically learned is that we all need to extend a little bit of grace, right? And so I think our faculty have done a really good job of that through the online through this online process. And so they've really kind of had to kind of shift their thinking, but also kind of lent some grace and patience to students who maybe are struggling a little bit more in the online setting. And so I know I'm faculty staff, so maybe it doesn't mean as much for me. Let's hear from Mackenzie, Allie, Tariq. What about y'all's experience? Is that kind of true? Is that not true at all?
I think transitioning to online classes is an adjustment for everyone. It's not just the students, the professors are also having to deal with that in a very short amount of time. In my experience, my professors have helped a lot. They all posted their PowerPoints. They took the time to like record their voice over the PowerPoints to explain things. They gave us extra worksheets to help us kind of understand the material better and follow along. And they were just very understanding with any questions or accommodations. That's just my experience. My professors were excellent in helping me with that, and they were always available if I had questions or wasn't understanding something. A lot of professors will sometimes give out their phone number or an email or another way so you can have more of a direct contact with them. And so that's something that's been very beneficial as well. So I think it's kind of just what you make of it. If you take the time and go through the PowerPoints and the voice recordings like you would in class, it'll be great. But if you just try to do it all on your own, that's kind of when it gets harder. So it really is just what you make out of it, like with most experiences.
Yeah, I totally agree with all of that. It definitely is an adjustment. Because I know for me personally, I learn better in the classroom online. I was very nervous coming onto online, but definitely reaching out to help. Like Allie said, like professors, like they're willing to help you. And if you're willing to ask for that help, like it's gonna be a great match. Like OMG, it helped me so much. Also another thing too is, oh no, I already said that. But yeah, just making sure that you're reaching out to help. I can't stress that enough. I know that helped me a lot. I also other students. I was really big in this in like when I was in person, but even more now. People in my class, if like I needed help with an assignment and I emailed my professor, they weren't getting back to me. I would contact a student. That worked. That worked well also. So just if you need help, ask for it. People at Winthrop are willing to help. Can't stress that enough. So yeah, if you have help, it's so much better.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with what Allie and Mackenzie both said. During this time, it was kind of rough on everybody, both students and professors. So it was just understanding more so what you need to do to make this experience better for yourself and understanding everything. So definitely reaching out and talking to your professors about everything, no matter how big or small it is, and also utilizing your classmates, because a big thing for me is I'm more of a hands-on type person. So it's easy for me to just not understand something in depth. So utilizing my classmates and playing on their strengths as well as mine to better understand the content and stuff that I was given for these classes, and just staying in contact with professors and stuff, that really made it worthwhile.
Awesome. Thank y'all. Okay, so next question, or did I hear somebody? No. Next question in the chat is really cool, actually. Bella says that one of her family friends is a recent alum of Winthrop. Love that. And she is asking if they can help her through First Flight. The answer is I don't really know how they would, because really it's you kind of absorbing content and then taking these little mini quizzes to kind of get the main points. And so basically, she can't do it for you, or he or she can't do it for you. But I think that's awesome because they're a great resource for you, right? So if you have any questions, you kind of have your own point person outside of like your orientation leader there for you. So I just think that's really cool. Let's see. So there's stuff about the Facebook group. Darius asks, is there any way that I can access the First Flight thing that we're talking about in the beginning? Is it on a website? Yeah, so Darius, I don't know if you're a freshman or transfer, but basically the answer is that you'll get an email whenever you're put into First Flight and about how to access it and everything. It's through Blackboard, though, which is our kind of online classroom at Winthrop. In a regular/normal semester, I don't know how to say that, basically pre-COVID-19, many classes would use Blackboard. Now all classes are using Blackboard. It's like our #1 tool on campus, our best friend. And so you'll also, in that email, you'll get some instructions on how to get into Blackboard and how to navigate to First Flight. And then Allie is actually putting together a wonderful tutorial about Blackboard itself so that you get some more familiarity with using Blackboard as a tool and not just for First Flight. But so that's the answer there. So you'll get notified on how to do that whenever you're dropped in. Kylie says, will our admissions counselor be part of the orientation process? The sad answer is no. They are, of course, still there as a resource. If you do have a question to ask them or things like that, you absolutely can. And there may be some questions that orientation staff may say, this is a great question for your admissions counselor because it may be their kind of cup of tea. But for the most part, we're your guys now, and we're so excited to be it. You'll get, like I mentioned, an orientation leader or a transfer orientation leader and mentor who will work with you. They're upperclassmen. They're great. They're basically your big connection. You can also email orientation@winthrop.edu if you have questions about that too. And so I can kind of talk about the progression too, though, right? So you're with admissions, and then you come to us for orientation. And then in the fall, our freshmen, y'all will actually work more closely with first year experience and your peer mentor. So it's kind of a gradual progression. For our transfer students, you'll actually continue to work with your transfer orientation leader and mentor. It's just kind of the nature of the program. Ty, did you want to say anything else about that?
Of course. So fun facts. A lot of us in admissions were orientation leaders. So we absolutely love orientation. And while we're not there, you still can come out and hang out with us, because once you become a student on campus and you're in and around the campus community, we do offer opportunities for students to give student tours. And many of those people often go on to be orientation leaders as well. So even after you've gone through the first year experience, you can come back and help students through their initial experience with Winthrop University and find their future home.
Awesome. That's awesome. That's a really good point. And Ty was an orientation leader himself. Woohoo! Okay, so then Mary and Kylie want to know, how can we find work study positions? And so that's the Office of Financial Aid. If you actually go to their website, they have some pretty handy information there, as well as like how to actually find those. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time on that. Definitely go to Financial Aid though. Lee says, how do housing assignments work? And when do we figure out what residence hall we might be in? And does having a roommate affect that decision? Lee has a lot of questions. Okay, so, and Ty, help me out on this one. I talked to Res Life a couple weeks ago, and they're going to keep their process as it usually would be for this summer for now. And so if they have any updates for y'all to that process, they'll let you know. Housing assignments come out in June, right?
Yep, June is like very, very, very rare. Occasional will be very late June, like late June, early July. So generally, it's after orientation when you get your housing assignment, and they'll give you an idea of what residence hall you're in. It will give you the name of the person that you're rooming with, or the names if you end up with multiple people, and then you'll get the phone number for contact as well. If you already have someone that you're lined up with and you know you're going to be roommates, it's still going to be the same time. You don't get it any earlier. The housing has to take every single person and put them in this giant system and put them with a roommate. So just hold tight. You will learn before you move on to campus.
Yeah, for sure. And I've actually seen them in the process of putting everybody into rooms. Y'all, it's a giant puzzle. It's wild. More power to them. Woo! Okay, so Cameron asked, do transfer students need to complete the math placement test? If we do, when should we do this before our advising appointment? The answer to the second part is yes. The answer to the first part is it kind of depends, but you'll get an email if you do need to take the math placement test. That'll say like that you need to take it and then how to take it. It'll be an online kind of deal. Brooklyn says, I'm a transfer student, need to kind of get an idea of what I need to do before orientation. That is a great question that I haven't covered yet. So, and then Emily, I just talked about math placement, so I'm not going to go there again. But Brooklyn, and for everybody, before First Flight, do some things for me. The first one is create your Winthrop email if you have not done so already. You won't be able to get into First Flight until you create your Winthrop email. You'll also get a ton of communication in there, including probably communication for the math placement test through there. Second is make sure that all transcripts are in at admissions, and that will make sure that you are advised for the correct courses for the fall semester. The next thing is to double check that your major is correct in Wingspan. Or Ty, can they see what their major is in the admissions portal?
I believe you can. It's going to be easier to check it in a Wingspan though. You probably have to dig a little bit to find where it is on your admissions portal.
Got you. So in Wingspan, you'll just click on student and then transcripts. And this will show you like your unofficial Winthrop transcript, which won't be too exciting yet. But your major will be listed on there. And so if it's incorrect, you can either talk to your admissions counselor or shoot us an email at orientation@winthrop.edu, and we'll make sure it gets changed. Again, that's super important to make sure your major's right before you start First Light, because your advisor is already working to kind of get your schedule prepared or kind of figure out what classes you do need to take in the fall. And so the sooner we know if you're going to change your major, the better, because they're going to have to go back and kind of rework some things if you change your major. And it's okay if you do, but again, it's just kind of like sooner rather than later is best for sure. And then I think that's the end of my laundry list. So if you could do those things before First Light, that'd be great. And that all those different things will be in that email that you get once you're put into First Light of things to do, before you get started as well. Okay, let's see. I'm trying to find where we are. We were talking about math placement for a hot minute.
Yeah, it should be. The last question was Emily's question about math placement. Does everyone need to do the math placement test? The answer is no. I want to say it's only your science, math, and natural science majors that have to take it. There's a list that you can find on our website that tells you every single major that needs it, but we will contact you if you need to take it.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks. So let's see. Oh, I was almost supposed to read that one. Let's see. Video call. So a couple people are signing out, which is totally fine. When will we know if fall classes will be online or on campus in the fall? Your guess is as good as mine, is what I can say. And we're all kind of sitting on pins and needles as well, because we really want to be back on campus too. And so what I will say is the president and senior leadership and the board of trustees are kind of considering all the different options and kind of trying to do some future planning to see where the fall might take us. And so I'm hoping that, they'll tell us sooner rather than later, but I really don't have an update as to what that is. Move-in day, depending on, no, wait, it doesn't depend. For new students, it's Friday, August 21st is move-in day. Oh, and then Star's asking to get into the Facebook group. Somebody help her out. Allie, Mackenzie, Tariq, are y'all in that? Can you add her to it? Oh.
I'm in that group. I don't think I'm an admin though, so I'm gonna text someone and see if we can get her added real quick.
Oh, got you.
He private messaged me and told me he was gonna look into it.
Oh, sorry, Star. Didn't mean to put you on the box there. All right, so then Darius asked, do I have to sign up for orientation in order to get into First Light? Yes, is the answer. So if you have not registered for orientation, do so as soon as possible today. You are not going to even start your orientation process until you get registered for orientation. So that's the answer to that. Let's see.
You answered about when move-in day is?
Yes, August 21st.
21st students is a new student, right? So we all move in the 21st? Okay.
That's correct, yeah. Yeah, there's no difference there. Good question. So Jaden, just to clarify what you posted in the chat, First Light is only part 1 of orientation. We'll still have an in-person session in early August called Eagles Landing, which you'll be notified about in early July. And then Emily wants to know when we will get the email about the placement test. Ty, do you know when those come out?
I do not know. I would imagine they'll probably go out soon. If you want to just jump the gun and see if you need to take the math placement test, I'll go ahead and find a link for you guys. You can click on that and see if your major's listed.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, I'm gonna come back to you, Anna, about Wingspan and email. One sec. Darius asks, let's see, how do we sign into our emails? Is there like a specific website? So that kind of goes into the same thing. If you actually go to our website, winthrop.edu/orientation, you'll see new student checklist along the left side. The link to set up your email is in there. And then I was going to ask Tariq, Mackenzie, or Allie, would y'all talk about the difference between Wingspan and student email?
So your email is more so just where you'll be contacting people through Winthrop, whether it be your professors, other students, that sort of thing. Wingspan is a separate student portal, and through there, there's many different tabs. You'll learn about them all in the video that you all get during First Flight and everything. But Wingspan is where you can look at your transcripts. That's where you'll register for classes. That's where you'll see like your final grades, your interim grades. It's where there's a link to get to your like account to pay your tuition, that sort of thing. You can see your schedule. You can see your dining, like how many meal swipes. Y'all will learn about those too. You'll see like how many meal things you have left. It'll have your post office box. If you're an employee, if you get a job sometime during your first semester or whenever, there's an employee tab where you'll log your hours, that sort of thing. So Wingspan does a whole lot, whereas the email is more so just kind of what it is, an email.
Well, thank you. And like I mentioned earlier, there's going to be a couple Wingspan navigation videos that you'll watch through First Flight as well. So you'll definitely get more acquainted with that for sure. And then a couple folks had questions about transcripts. You do need to send in your transcripts. And then Ty, I think they just emailed those to you, right?
Yes, so if you have transcripts, so this is relevant to first-time freshman students and also transfer students. You need to make sure you email or you have official copies sent to us. Now, in order to be an official copy, it generally needs to come from the institution. So for your high schools, have them just send it to us via email at admissions@winthrop.edu. Same thing with colleges. Some colleges will want to send them physically. Just make sure you send them to Joins Hall. That's where we're located, and we will take those in. Make sure they don't send them to the graduate school, because the graduate school will get them, and then it adds a lot of complexity. You need it to graduate admissions.
Thank you. And then, okay, the last thing I see in the chat, if I'm not wrong, I just want to point this out. Someone said that they got locked out of Wingspan and or their email account. And so that stinks. I'm sorry that that happened. To solve that, you need to contact IT. And if it helps, if you email helpdesk@winthrop.edu. In that email, if you say, I'm about to go through orientation, they'll know that they need to do it like sooner rather than later. Not that they ever have like, you know, a giant list of things that they never get to. But that'll kind of give them an idea of like where you are and needing your email or Wingspan set up back up. And so they'll kind of work with you through that process. Victoria asks, can we have a suite room for our freshman year? The answer is maybe. Tariq, Allie, and Mackenzie?
So typically the suite style ones, like in my experience and what I've seen, are more likely to go to upperclassmen. We have 3 freshman residence halls, Wofford, Richardson, and Margaret Nance. And so that's most likely where you'll be, just because the upperclassmen complete their housing first and they are going to be applying for the suite style ones. But that's not to say you won't. There's not a chance. One of my suite mates, during my sophomore year, I was in the suite style one, and I had a freshman who was my suite mate. So it is possible. It's just not as likely, in my opinion and experience.
Okay, I guess that's it. Sorry. Thank you. Let's see, and then let's see. Raven asked how to get in touch with with financial aid since the office is closed. Yeah, so all campus offices are currently quote unquote closed. Really, that means that they might not have access to their office telephone, or they're not gonna be allowing like in-person visitors. They're all open to email though. So most every office on campus has a Winthrop email account set up, and so she was particularly asking about financial aid. And so their email is finaid@winthrop.edu, so finaid@winthrop.edu. And so if you email that, they're still monitoring those accounts because we're quote unquote open, but also technically closed. It's very weird. But yeah, so hopefully that answers that question. Did I miss any questions in the chat? think that was the last one so far. Of course, you
Hi.
can. Yeah.
If we don't go back to school for the first semester, like the fall semester, would we still have to pay for that semester, or would that be taken off of the tuition price?
You want to answer that one?
I can take that. So the answer to your question is, as long as you make sure all the paperwork is done, you would not be paying for that first semester. So let's say that the circumstances are you as an individual have decided that you are not going to be attending in the fall. You would need to make sure you contact us, and we can help you organize who else you need to contact. Generally, it's Residence Life, and then maybe Student Financial Services and financial aid. And if you do all that prior to the semester starting, or even at the very, very beginning of the semester, you won't be billed for any of your courses. However, if you decided 2 months into school starting that you weren't going to be attending classes, that's a little bit different. It gets a little trickier at that point. So if you do have that decision, make it early. Don't wait until September or October to make the decision that you're not going to attend classes. Does that answer your question?
I meant with if COVID-19 keeps us from going. I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries. So if we're talking about something larger scheme, this is definitely something we've never seen before. This is the first time that a pandemic's really broken out and affected colleges like this. I would say it's something that leadership would have to look at. We're looking at this point, if we weren't able to have students on campus, I mean, we're still having talks about doing classes online. So there's definitely going to be some adjustments, some changes there, but leadership would make that ultimate decision as to how they would react if they said that nobody's allowed on campus or we're not teaching classes, period.
Thank you. That one answered my question.
Cool. Thank y'all. All right. What else? Let's see. Mackenzie, Alley Streak, while we don't have a ton of questions in the chat, do you want to kind of talk through maybe what you're excited about for this summer?
I know me personally. So I was an orientation leader last year, but I'm on leadership staff this year. So a big thing for me is I wasn't able to have student groups, but I still get to work with the incoming students in general. So I'm just really excited to be able to see you guys on this journey, from the start of orientation up until classes and school starts. So that's the biggest thing I'm excited about.
I'm excited for watching the freshman and transfer orientation leaders because, as we've said a lot of times, this is such a unique experience with this pandemic going on. So I'm excited to see how our freshman and transfer orientation leaders interact with y'all in person or online first, and then y'all get to meet in person later. I'm really excited for that. I think it's going to be great. It'll give you a lot longer of a time to build that relationship with whoever your orientation leader is. So I'm really excited to watch that transition.
Yeah, mine's kind of like Allie's too. I was an orientation leader the past 2 years and have never really seen anything like this either. So, definitely excited because our orientation leaders that we have, transfer and freshmen, they're super excited about this online and then in person. So, I'm excited to see how they interact with you, and how they're gonna, try to interact and engage with this online piece, and then how that translates to the in-person piece, because like Ali said, it is a longer time because usually like in the past it's only like 2 days, and that's pretty much it, but this time it's a couple of months, whereas I mean you're not going to see each other in person, but you still like have that like connection almost, because you have like kind of met like via internet. So I'm super excited to see how that plays out also.
Awesome. Thanks, y'all. And I'll also kind of say that OLs, I think I said this before, they're so excited to meet y'all and work with y'all and kind of get y'all connected to campus. When we told them that we were kind of moving to this part 1, part 2 model, I was expecting like they were going to be kind of sad, kind of missing like the fully in-person thing, but they were so gung-ho and they were so excited. It was really refreshing because it really kind of shows you that their purpose and their goals really are to kind of help y'all along regardless of what it looks like, right? And so I really do hope that you get to know them and that you interact with them as much as possible in First Flight, but then also, of course, when we're in person and at Eagles Landing. The OLs will also have some like virtual events for y'all to attend, whatever, in June, May, June, some maybe in July, just to kind of get further connected to Winthrop and kind of meet other new Eagles and things like that. So I hope y'all take advantage of those too, because they're coming along and they're really excited about it too. Let's see. So in the chat, someone was asking where to find your major in Wingspan. It's under the student tab under unofficial transcript. Amber said there's no unofficial transcript area. Okay, I'm gonna have to look closer at it. Give me one sec.
If you absolutely can't find it, we technically can't see it. So Amber, I'm gonna send you a message with your official major, but the Office of Admissions can access it if you can't find it in the Wingspan settings.
Awesome, thank you, Ty. That's
I was also gonna chime in real quick. I don't know if it's just with her Wingspan in general, but it may just be that there's kind of more tabs to click through. So you'll go to student tab and then you'll go to student records and then you'll click academic transcript. And then that's where it says unofficial and you'll click submit. So it could also just be that there's like a few more tabs to get through.
There you go. Thanks, Allie. I was kind of doing it from memory, so I left off some. Thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. Let's see. And then, let's see. Kaylee asked again about move-in day. August 21st is move-in day. Hooray. We're excited about it. And then Darius says, so excited to meet everybody. Exactly. We are too. Raven, how can we change our major? So you can change your major by emailing admissions at winthrop.edu. You could also email orientation at winthrop.edu. You've got some different options. You could email us both. That would be kind of fun too. But either way, we'll get it kind of square wherever you end up. Let's see. So yeah, so move-in day, again, August 21st. That's the Friday before classes start on the 23rd, 22, 23, 24th. That Monday is when classes start. Let's see. So you'll have a packed weekend that weekend too. If all goes according to plan as of right now, you'll move in that Friday, and you'll get more information about move-in too, because it's a whole kind of puzzle thing going on too with so many people moving on at once. But Res Life will send out some information about that as we get closer. And like I said, don't plan to kind of like sit around that weekend because you'll have a lot to do. There's some required welcome week events that everybody will attend. And really it's just to kind of get you connected to campus. You'll also meet like your Academy 101 or ACAD classmates then. It's very exciting. And so yeah, so I won't spill the beans too much there, but just get excited is what I'll say.
Yeah, don't spoil it too much, Callie. We're actually doing a web series tomorrow on all that. So.
Oh gosh. Okay, I'm not gonna say anything. Right. Let's see. Do early college students have to do anything before orientation? I'm gonna guess this means early Eagles or move-in day besides send our transcripts.
Or it could be, and this is where I'm kind of thinking it could be students who've taken college courses while they're in high school. The answer is yes. So if you are in that boat and you are a student who's taking college courses, meaning you've taken classes at a 2-year or 4-year institution prior to attending Winthrop, you need to get those transcripts sent to us. Now, for many of you, you probably have AP or IB credits. With the AP classes, you are going to need to send those scores to us. So make sure you send those scores to us. Otherwise, we will not have record of you taking that AP exam and you won't get credit for it. So now is a good time to check on that. If you have AP credits or if you're going to have AP credits when you graduate, make sure you send that to us. It does take some time, but no matter what your college courses are, you want to make sure you get them to us so that we can evaluate them and see if you get some extra credit.
Awesome, thank you. Let's see, so Raven asks, when is orientation? I'm registered and everything, which is great, good job. But it never showed an actual date. Yes, for a minute there, we took the dates down because again, we were trying to figure out this process, so I apologize for that. If you know like what session number or letter, depending on if you're a freshman or a transfer student that you're registered for, so like example session 2, you can go on our website, winthrop.edu/orientation. and click freshman orientation or transfer orientation again, depending on your population, and those session dates are listed with the actual date. For transfer students, I will say that those don't matter. For freshmen, the actual date is when you'll do advising. And so again, you'll have about a week prior to whatever date that you signed up for freshmen to actually work through First Flight, and you'll get a huge email once you're dropped into First Flight with all of this information for sure. Riley, your question, would in-person orientation be the same? I'm gonna guess you mean like in compared to a previous summer, and the answer is no. So like freshmen, for example, typically do two-day overnight experience. This year, that's not going to be the case. There's no overnight component for any Eagles Landing in-person orientation dates in early August. So basically, you're coming to campus in the morning, checking in, and then you are hitting the road, or either you could get a hotel in the area. It's kind of up to you and kind of how far you're coming from for sure. But yeah, so it's going to be a little different than other summers. Freshman Eagles Landing dates are going to go from, hello? Freshman Eagles Landing dates are going to go from, what's happening?
Sorry, is it still on the same, would it still be on the same day though?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Is this Riley?
Yes.
Riley, are you a freshman or a transfer student? I want to answer your question correctly.
I'm gonna be I'll be a freshman in the fall.
Okay, cool. So whatever date that you registered for, so say you registered for session 2, which I think is June 15th and 16th, about a week or so prior to those dates, you'll get an email from us that has a bunch of information, including that you've been enrolled into First Flight and how to access it and get started on the First Flight online piece, which is part 1. And then your orientation dates that you signed up for, so again, June 15th and 16th, that's when your advising sessions would happen. So I think basically what you said before is to keep those 2 dates open for now, and then you certainly won't be in advising for 2 full days, but it'll be a piece of those, kind of depending on your major and your advisor's scheduling. And so what I'd say is keep those dates kind of open for now. Does that answer your question?
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. Okay.
What is the?
Yeah.
Sorry. What is the? You said those 2 days we need to keep open. What are we doing those 2 days?
Yeah, so you'll do virtual advising appointments those 2 days. And so let me walk through I think a lot of folks have joined, so let me kind of go back and walk through that again. So for this summer, orientation has been split into 2 parts. The first part is First Flight, which is going to be some online stuff. And then the second part is Eagles Landing. And so Eagles Landing is in-person orientation in early August. So it's kind of like part 1, part 2. So for First Flight, for freshmen, y'all will get an email from us saying that you've been enrolled into First Flight in Blackboard. This will happen about a week or so before your actual orientation dates. And then you'll have a week to complete that First Flight content. And so this will be things like viewing videos through that First Flight Blackboard classroom. And then you'll have some quizzes to do along the way. Again, not to trip anybody up, really just to kind of reiterate some really important points from that content that you just viewed. And then once you've completed First Flight, then your academic advisor will reach out to you to set up an appointment for advising. And so those advising times will be those dates that you sign up for through the orientation registration system. And then from there, you'll also register for classes. So for transfer students, y'all's looks a little bit differently. If you're registered for orientation by this coming Monday, May 11th, you'll be dropped into First Flight then and get that same email saying like how to find Blackboard, how to navigate to First Flight, and then how to kind of make your way through First Flight. You'll also have a week to complete it. And then you'll have your advising appointment, which is going to be individual advising for transfer students between the 20th and the 29th of May. And then you'll register for classes in there as well. So that's kind of like the quick and dirty. Okay, let's see. I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name, whoever asked that question though. Does that kind of answer? The first step though is to register for orientation, which can be done through the admissions portal or by going to our website, winthrop.edu/orientation. You can get to it either way. Let's see. So Victoria says, which one is better, having a single room or a roommate? Mackenzie, Tariq, Allie, I want to take that one.
I would say that's just kind of a preference thing, honestly. If you are in a single room, I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure you have to pay for both sides of the room, so you're paying twice as much. So that's something to keep in mind with that. Also, I enjoyed having a roommate because it gave me someone else in the exact same boat as me, learning the exact same things I was trying to learn. And so my roommate turned into like a support system for me. So that was my experience with it, but I would say it honestly is a personal experience. I would just keep in mind that you would have to pay for both parts of the room.
Yeah, with me, I had a roommate my first semester freshman year, and it was pretty good for me. We both like meshed well together, and we played off of each other, like, um, as far as like living arrangement wise. But my second semester, he didn't return back to school, so I had the room to myself. Um, that was kind of boring. I missed having a roommate, but it was kind of good at the same time because I was kind of used to being in my own space. But it was just the fact that I was already used to sharing the living space and also having that mindset of being in the community and having to share things. So it's kind of depending on your like what you prefer. And also because he didn't return the second semester, I didn't have to pay for a single room, but I was not allowed to use the other half of the room because I was still considered a student with the roommate because um, even if another student had to switch rooms, that side of the room still had to be available in case anything occurred with other people living situations, and other people needed to switch rooms or whatever. It still had to be available to them.
And if I can add my 2 cents on that. So when it comes to looking at single rooms and shared rooms on campus, there is an opportunity for some freshman students to have their own room if they are in the honors program, because Courtyard is individual rooms for each person, and then you have like a collective apartment that you share with 3 other people generally. But if you're in a Richardson, Wofford, Margaret Nance, or any of our residence halls for that matter, there's a large sense of community outside of just your room itself. So while you might have a roommate, you're also going to be living in a community where you're going to walk down the hall and go interact and hang out with people that have their door open. And it's almost like you're a whole entire floor that works together. It's not just a room. So keep that in mind when you do live in one of our residence halls that has more of a focus on your communal living. You're going to make friends outside of that space, and your room is really just for sleeping. The whole entire floor becomes your living space.
Awesome, thank y'all. Okay, so Kylie asked, this is kind of unrelated, but why doesn't the first day of class start until 5 p.m.? That is a winter thing, and it is because there's some welcome week events prior to classes starting that day, like going to convocation, which is our, Ty, am I stepping on your toes again? I'm talking about welcome week. Ah!
Oh, no. Oh, I mean, I'll talk about it in tomorrow's event, tomorrow's event, but talk about what, totally okay.
Okay, sorry. But yeah, so it's a winter thing basically, that there are some events prior to 5 p.m. that are required for new students, including convocation. There's also like this really fun picnic that you'll get to go to, and so that's why. And so classes start at 5 p.m. that day. So that means that if you have a class that's scheduled for Mondays at 5 p.m., you'll go to that class or later. But if you have classes like Monday mornings, you don't have classes that Monday, which is kind of cool too. Let's see. And then Kaylee says, unmuted. That was weird. Kaylee says, so with everything going on, we are still scheduled to move in on the 21st, right? Yes, is the answer to that. Christy, I think I already answered your question, so I'm going to kind of skip along here. And then Ty, you had answered a couple questions about transcripts in the chat. this person says, if we took a college class at our high school, how can we get the transcripts for it? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So when you take classes at a high school that are technically considered a college class, you have to have a transcript assigned to whatever college that class is accredited through. So I'll speak from experience. I'm from the upstate. Anyone here from like the greater Clemson area? Anyone? Yeah, maybe, hopefully. Well, anyhow, Tri-County Tech is the school in that area where a lot of students will take classes. And even though it's offered at your specific high school, you are going to have classes accredited through Tri-County Tech. So your transcript has to say Tri-County Tech. So in order to get that, you generally have to go to the records office of that institution, and you don't have to physically go there, just go to the website, and they will either request a physical copy or a digital copy, because many schools have parchment to send out these various different transcripts to other colleges.
Cool, thank you. Someone asks, if you request a roommate and the other person requests you, is there a possibility they won't be your roommate? And so what I'll say is it's likely that you'll be paired together, but I can make no promises for the rest life process. As I mentioned before, it's a giant puzzle getting everyone into the correct room, but also kind of thinking about preferences and things. So I think, and Ty, correct me if I'm wrong, it's fair to say that it's likely that you will be with that person, but again, I don't want to make any promises on behalf of Res Life.
Man, I am trying to think of a single time where I've heard a student requested somebody else and not got it. It's not often. I can't think of anyone that hasn't gotten the request. That being said, what Residence Life is doing, to give you a little bit of behind the scenes, they have to look and see, like for our first floor individuals who need easily accessible rooms, like those rooms have to be filled in a certain order by certain people. And then there's other room preferences that have to be made as well. So if there's something weird where your roommate has to be put somewhere else to fill a space and they can't fit you there, it could be that you're not rooming with them, but it doesn't happen that often. It really doesn't.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so we're actually going to work on wrapping up now. I'm going to do the last 3 questions that I see in the chat as of right now. And then if you have other questions, though, you can feel free to email us at orientation@winthrop.edu. Your admissions counselor is a great resource. And then once you meet your orientation leader, they're a terrific resource as well. Let's see, so someone asks, how long does it take to get places on campus? The general rule of thumb is it takes anywhere between 10 and 15 minutes to get anywhere. And so this is something we talk about in First Flight too, that you'll hear later, that don't pay too close attention of like where classes are and if they're kind of back to back, because you can definitely make it 100%. And then Evan wants to know, Ty, when and where and how do they attend the event about Welcome Week tomorrow?
Oh, great question. I believe it was sent out via email. It's basically it's not just Welcome Week, it's what to expect in your first week at Winthrop. We already have a short video that's on our YouTube channel, so once again, shameless plug. But it's going to be a live event, and I will see it.
For those of you, sorry, Ty, I'm just going to hop in real quick. For those of you who have registered for the virtual admitted student month, you should be receiving emails every day that we have a webinar and the day before. So it's going to be on that link. If you have not registered for it, you need to in order to get the link to access that webinar. So make sure you go onto the accepted student page on our Winthrop's admissions website, and you'll be able to register for that, but it is going to be held in our webinar format.
Perfect. Thank you, Amanda.
Cool. Let's see, Kayla asks, transfer student signed up for orientation May 21st. From what I understand, it is strictly online. Will I be speaking to a counselor, picking my classes that day? So Kayla, it's not strictly online. There are 2 parts to orientation. The first part is First Flight, which is online, and that for you will start actually this coming Monday. So you're going to kind of get a jump start. You'll have a week to complete First Flight, which is some modules and things like that. And then your advisor will contact you on scheduling a time to meet between May 20th and the 29th. And so it could be that you are advised on May 21st, but it's going to be in that window. And then early July, we'll reach out to students to sign up for the Eagles Landing in-person on-campus dates. that's the second part of orientation. So I wanted to kind of clarify that really fast for anyone who joined late as well. Victoria asked about Greek life. Can we join Greek life in our first year? Do we have to wait till our second year? The blanket answer is that yes, you can join in your first year. For most Greek organizations, recruitment is in the spring. Yes, I'm getting nods. That's correct. So basically, you wouldn't be able to do it in the fall because it's just not how the process works. But you could do it in the spring if you want. Okay, let's see. Anything else before we say adieu to each other? Basically, moral of the story though is register for orientation if you haven't already. If you are registered for orientation, you're good to go, and we'll send you further instructions as they come up. And that's kind of it though. And so what I will say also is that we're currently working to update our website. It is still reflecting I don't want to say normal summer, but a pre-COVID-19 world summer. And so we're working to update those. I think that's all for us, I think. We've really enjoyed talking to y'all and getting to know you, and we can't wait to continue to work with y'all and meet y'all through orientation, First Flight, and Eagles Landing this summer. Anybody else have anything for the good of the group? Okay, I think we're good then.
Yep. Thank you all so much for coming. We absolutely loved having you here and answering all your questions. A huge thank you to orientation and our wonderful current students. You guys are so fantastic taking time out of your day to be on here to talk to our future Eagles. So thank you so much. For all of our future Eagles, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to admissions, 803-323-2191 or admissions@winthrop.edu. Thanks so much and have an absolutely wonderful day.